said, he's like, put the gun down, you know. And I said, look, dude, it's not even a real gun. He said, put the gun down. Oh, hi, sorry. Yes, hi. Welcome to the gym. This bi-weekly podcast.
Barry. We're like almost 50 episodes in, and you get and you're going to talk this whole episode. Let me at least introduce the show once.
Okay. Come on. Just start again.
All right. Hey, folks. We're the Jib. This is the Binomial podcast where we cast shade and give some of the truth on tons of shenanigans carried out by the CIA, FBI, what the fuck, and all the cops in the USA. Join us as we meander through time and space. So, hey, that guy, that guy right there, he's my co-host. And you may know him as the president of the Wittgenstein Kite Flying Bingo Watchers Club. His name is Barry Purcell.
Okay, I will not have shade thrown at Wittgenstein at any point during this podcast.
What?
You remember we did a previous podcast, an entire episode was basically shitting on Wittgenstein. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have it. All right? Wittgenstein was a gift. All right? Sure. Anyway, that's me apparently. And this guy... There we go. He's been wiretapped, fact-checked, and had his internet search history monitored by Quantico. But if the FBI wanted evidence against him in this brave new world, all they really had to do was print out the scripts for these podcasts. It's Seamus.
That's very fair. It's very fair.
And we have a guest today, Seamus.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Cory Johnston.
Hi, Cory.
Hey, why don't you tell us about your wonderful show that I was like...
I'll make him do it. Great.
Well, he could plug it. I mean, he's going to plug himself.
I guess it's the Skeptical Leftist podcast and YouTube channel. I talk to a bunch of people. I do interviews about progressive politics, basically, and I read books and occasionally do reviews. My co-host we used to do a series called Red Reviews where we talked about leftist books, and now I'm doing a current events show called Loose Wires also every 2 weeks. So cool. I did not I'm sorry, I did not know about them. Oh, that's all right. We stream really every second Tuesday, and then it comes out on the podcast the following Tuesday.
That's really
tell me something else about Loose Wires.
Oh, I got my co-host on that one. He goes by Ancom Psycom, which is, I guess, anarchist, communist, computer science.
Okay.
Yeah, anarchist, computer science, communist. Yeah, we just I try and find as many, like 5-ish news items to talk about that, and we kind of try and analyze them through an anarchist, communist perspective. Okay. And then I try to find capitalism's most deranged moment of the week, and sometimes it's tough because
no, it's not. It's not a rich environment.
It has to be something that's like exceptional, right? Because capitalism is just deranged. So, so it's
Let's reward the worst instincts of humanity.
Right, exactly.
What I like to say is that capitalism is fine in theory, but it's never worked anywhere it's been tried.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. It's I mean, it's like the state too, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially a power play by those with power already. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's the show.
Awesome.
I've been streaming a lot lately too. Like I just I'll go on and I'll listen to podcasts and I'll have commentary and I'll watch videos and react to them, I guess, on Twitch, just because you can be a lot more casual on Twitch than you can on other things.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds interesting, Cory.
Well, I've been doing it for about five years, so.
An amateur.
yeah, that's right.
Seamus, how long have you been in podcasting, Seamus?
Almost 10 years now.
Yeah, it's not a competition, but if it was.
Yeah, so, well, my first show I did start in 2013. It's just
there you go. So
it ended in 2016 or 2019. I mean, so
they came knocking at your door, did they? The feds?
No. It was an atheist focused podcast.
Oh, okay.
And my interests broadened, and so I had to.
Now you're
kindred spirit, man. Kindred spirit, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right. I was going to test your progressive politics, but there's no need now because of the rest of things you've said have made it clear. So I'm not going to anymore.
I'm curious what the test would be, though.
I was going to say, like, what do you think about like Bernie Sanders and that kind of thing? But I guess they're all supporting the state structure. So
yeah, I mean, as far as politicians go, they're not bad. But you know, what do you expect from politicians?
yeah, he's still basically supporting the structure that everybody else is benefiting from, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that he's actually worse because him and AOC are kind of fake left, and they're just plugging everything back into the system.
It can certainly be frustrating in that sense. Yeah.
I know.
They feel like they're
send your hate mail. Go ahead.
It's like the New Deal, right? Like it was put in place to protect the capitalist state, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it good? It solves the suffering of a lot of people, but it also reinforces the system that is causing that suffering. So,
or maybe it's like the black guy on 15 Million Credits. You know, the Black Mirror show.
Oh yeah.
The guy at the end. Maybe he's just like his only purpose is to act as a protest voice, so people feel like they're represented inside the machine.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's so cynical. But then I'm thinking maybe Bernie Sanders is doing the same thing, but without the glass. You know.
Yeah. The system co-opting revolutionary anger.
Yeah, that's where I bought my Che Guevara T-shirt. Anyway, we're not here to discuss anarchism and communism.
Right.
Aw.
Shit.
Do you want this to be a Cory podcast? Forget about what I had written if you want. This guy's really interesting. I feel like I could get hours of material from him.
We can have a conversation another time if you want, or
we just go with this then.
We keep chatting afterwards, and if we want to use something, maybe. I mean, I don't know how much time everybody's got, so.
Okay, well, you're the editor, so you decide exactly
Sunday,
how much time we have.
Okay, cool.
What I wanted to talk about today was Cyprus. Now, I have family in Cyprus. My aunt, who was Irish, married a Greek Cypriot. So 3 of my cousins, my first cousins, are Cypriots. So I have a responsibility to my family to get this one, to pay a little bit more attention to this. And I'm sure they will rake me over the hot coals if I've made any mistakes. But there's nothing you see obvious here. So a lot of this is kind of, you have to work it out. So I contacted one of them and I said, was this a CIA thing, you know? Because I can't find anything online directly linking it to the CIA. And they were just like, yeah, Barry, it was. So they're Cypriots. So let's start off and let's talk about Cyprus, right?
Okay.
Now we have a photo there. If you don't know what Cyprus is, that's the top the top right of the Mediterranean Sea. You can see Greece there, and then Turkey is the big chunk there, and right underneath Turkey and to the left of Syria is an island, and that island is called Cyprus. It's got a handle on it. Look, hang on, sorry. Cyprus was important in the Bronze Age, firstly because of its position, like the Levant, right in the trade nexus of Europe, Africa, and Asia, as you can see. And also because of its power as a producer of copper. You don't get a Bronze Age without copper. And this is probably where the island got its name. It was like Kupros or something, and then it's now Cyprus. Y's are used in Cyrillic. Around 2000 BC, it was colonized by Mycenaean Greeks and later by Assyrians, Egyptians, Persians, Alexander the Great, Ptolemaic Egyptians, the Roman Empire, the barely related Eastern Roman Empire, various Muslim caliphates, the French, and in 1473, the most serene Republic of Venice, which was more or less entirely composed of coastlines. From 1571 to 1878, it was ruled by the Ottoman Empire. Now, we had another place like this. Syria, we did an episode on Syria before, and Syria has quite a similar history of being constantly invaded by lots of people and ending up in the Ottoman Empire for many of the same reasons that it was a crossroads of empires and a crossroads of trade routes. Cyprus was handed over to the British in 1878 during the Cyprus Convention in exchange for Britain's support for the Ottoman Empire during those negotiations. It was formally annexed by the United Kingdom in 1914, a year when other things happened. Britain offered Cyprus to Greece if they joined the war on the British side, but they refused to do so. And this is a long history of Greece refusing to do things. This was the first real chance Greece had at enosis. Now, you're going to hear a lot about enosis in this podcast. Enosis means the project to reunify perceived Greek territories like Cyprus. Greece thinks it owns all those islands there, and it kind of does a bit. And most of the people on those islands wants to be a part of Greece and always did. So this enosis thing kind of takes care of itself up until a point. For instance, in 1908, Crete declared itself a part of Greece without asking them. And that was internationally recognized in 1913. So the Greeks were fine with it and Crete was fine with it. Afterwards, many Turks left Crete. Turks would feel threatened if Greece took over, particularly during the 1913 time. In the case of Cyprus, the opposite of enosis is taksim, and we will be talking about taksim a lot, and that's what the Turkish Cypriots call their desire to live on a partitioned island. They want to be a part of Turkey. Why wouldn't they? They're Turkish. In 1923, after the Greco-Turkish War, Cory, the protocol for this show is if at any point you think of something to say when I'm talking, just jump in.
Okay.
And I might say something here that you disagree with if you're an anarchist or a communist or whatever. I'll be saying things that are sometimes a part of the system, and you can feel free to jump in and we'll discuss it. In 1923, after the Greco-Turkish War, the Turks agreed to give up any claim they had on Cyprus in the Treaty of Lausanne, partly in exchange for immunity from war crimes, such as the genocide of Armenians that we're not allowed to talk about, and the genocide of Greeks, which we are allowed to talk about, in Anatolia, which both occurred during World War I. The Treaty of Lausanne also arranged for the removal of all remaining Turks from Crete in exchange for all remaining Greeks in Anatolia. This was very much part of a larger series of population swaps, which presumably made sense at the time, and it kind of did because you want to avoid genocide, you know. Normally, that was back when you'd like try to avoid genocide. Those days, old-fashioned times.
The good old days.
The old days when genocide was something to be avoided rather than to be chased down with lust in your eyes. At first, the Cypriots were delighted with British rule, believing it would lead to prosperity and democracy and enosis, but they changed their minds the following weekend. And this is another pattern we've had, Seamus, on this show, where the natives in a place, when the empire hits them first, they're actually all right until they figure out the following weekend what the empire is up to.
Yeah. Right.
This happens. It happened in Haiti. It happened in Nicaragua. It happened everywhere that empire has been. They're like, oh, cool, these guys. And then they're like, wait a minute, fuck you, right? But they changed their minds the following weekend. The British imposed heavy taxes on Cyprus as a means of paying themselves compensation for the concessions made to Turkey. Also, it became clear that Cypriots would have no influence over the decisions which affected them, as all these decisions were being made in London. And among other things, there was zero appetite in London for enosis. In 1925, this lack of democracy was underlined when Cyprus was officially made a crown colony. And that is the last thing you want to hear if you want to be independent, is the word colony in your country.
Yep.
In September 1931, we're still just at 1931, apologies, a bunch of local Cypriot officials resigned over tax hikes, and Archbishop Nicodemus of the Greek Orthodox Church of Cyprus called a national protest. The Church of Cyprus was extremely influential on the Greek nationalist movement in Cyprus, often driving it from the top down. This would be another feature of what I'm going to talk about, is the Greek Orthodox Church and how they influence the nationalist movement in Cyprus. In October, thousands of Cypriots took to the streets in 1931 now. They call this the Octovriana. They burnt down government buildings in Nicosia, the capital, and tore British flags from public buildings all over the island to right, fuck them. And replaced
good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Fuck them. Yeah, spoken like a true Canadian. Fuck them. Replacing them with Greek flags. As a response, the British fired the entire administration and replaced them with a new administration led by Richmond Palmer. Richmond Palmer is, of course, not a Greek name. And he had previously been a lieutenant governor in Nigeria, because of course he was, and commander-in-chief of the Gambia, because of course he was. So he had experience in dealing with uppity foreigners. His dictatorship is known by Greek Cypriots even today as the Palmerokratia, right? Which is the rule of Palmer. Anything with kratia after it in Greek means rule of, like democracy, or right? Palmerokratia. When the Greeks gave something its own name, you know you're in trouble. Another famous one that's nothing to do with this is called the Decembriana. And if you want to look up Decembriana on Google, see another absolute shit show that happened in Greece that they have their own name for. That's disgusting. You should do that on your own time, because this has nothing to do with this. The Constitution, as undemocratic as it was anyway, was suspended, and troops took to the streets. Another bad sign. Political parties and elections were banned. This is familiar, right, Seamus?
Yeah.
Political parties and elections were banned. 2 Greek Orthodox bishops and a bunch of other politicians and community leaders were exiled. Greek and Turkish flags were banned. A special police force made up of only Turkish officers was established. Throughout this time, there were many protests against the regime, increasingly based around enosis. The Palmyrocratia lasted right until World War II, when everything was put on hold. 30,000 Greek Cypriots joined the British armed forces to fight the Axis powers, which I guess they were putting their hatred of the British on hold too. By the way, that happened in Ireland. Again, I'm not really allowed to talk about it, but a lot of Irish guys joined the British army as well. I guess, we're all on the same side when the Nazis attack. In 1946, the British rewarded the Cypriots, or so they thought, by inviting them to a constitutional assembly to put together a more democratic administration and allowing the return of the exiles. However, the British refused to put enosis on the table. As this was the rallying cause for all the disparate Greek nationalist groups in Cyprus, this was unacceptable. The Church of Cyprus, remember the Greek Orthodox now, the Church of Cyprus rejected it out of hand, saying that enosis was the only thing they wanted to discuss. The Cypriot Communist Party, which is called Anarthotiko Koma Ergozemenu Lau, or AKEL, and I will be using that acronym in future. I can tell you that for zero fucking drachma. The Cypriot Communist Party, AKEL, who did not get along at all with the Church of Cyprus for obvious reasons, were also nevertheless completely committed to enosis. So they saw themselves as allies in this one area. In 1948, the recently restored King of Greece, Paul, which I think is a disarmingly lovely name for a king, Paul. And one of my Greek first cousins is also called Paul. So he has a very royal name, I guess, if you're a Cypriot. The recently restored King of Greece, Paul.
Maybe they're just fans of Dune.
Maybe, yes, Paul Muad'Dib, said openly that Cypriots wanted enosis, right? And he said it out loud. So that's something.
Careful now.
1950, yeah, careful, right? In 1950, a referendum demonstrated that 96% of the Greek Cypriots wanted enosis. And also in 1950, Michael Christodoulou Mouskos was elected Archbishop Makarios III of Cyprus. And my other male first cousin, who was a Cypriot, is called Michael. So we've already had two of those names. He's called Michael Christodoulou Mouskos, and he was elected Archbishop Makarios III of Cyprus. We're going to call him Makarios from now on. Makarios is probably the most famous character, maybe in the entire history of Cyprus from the day one. Okay. We'll talk about him, Makarios. The official leader of the Orthodox Church in Cyprus. He immediately started demanding enosis. In 1952, 2 years after this, a complicating factor, both Greece and Turkey joined NATO. Now we're moving into a more complicated area, because when you're in NATO, well, you'll see. In 1954, the British were forced out of the Suez, which is downstairs from Cyprus, and were forced to relocate their Middle East operational headquarters to Cyprus. That same year, the Greek ambassador to the UN asked for self-determination for the people of Cyprus, which would of course mean enosis. The General Assembly decided not to consider the problem further for the time being because it does not appear appropriate to adopt a resolution on the question of Cyprus, is the quote that the General Assembly and the UN gave him. How would you take that back to your people? It's a very odd thing to say, isn't it? We're not going to talk about this because it does not appear appropriate to talk about Cyprus right now. But that's what you're for. You're the UN. Like, where the hell am I going to go if I can't talk to you guys? I'm not going to talk to Turkey. They might shoot me. When it became clear that diplomacy, democratic methods, and international pressure had failed to convince the British to deliver enosis, a revolutionary underground movement, yay, led by Colonel George Grivas, they called him Digenis, and I'll be calling him Digenis from now on, began to conduct an armed struggle. The Ethniki Organosis Kyprion Agoniston, or IOKA, I'll be definitely using that from now on, was the Cypriot nationalist. By the way, my Greek is terrible. Any Greek I have is Koine Greek, which means any Greek person in the last 2,000 years won't understand me. But regardless, Yasu, Kalimera, or I suppose Kalispera to everybody if you're Greek, Yasu. The Cypriot nationalist guerrilla organization IOKA was established in 1955, at least partially under the spiritual guidance of Makarios. Now, when I say spiritual guidance, he may have had nothing to do with it at all, but also he was the spiritual leader of IOKA, right? That's where I'm going there. Like, he didn't sign any checks or anything, but they were taking their... It's a sticky one, okay? Although the relationship between Makarios and the IOKA fighters would deteriorate over time. Dun, dun, dun. The Cypriot Communist Party was completely opposed to IOKA, preferring to advocate for a series of strikes and public demonstrations, as most communist parties in the world would generally tend towards. They're more interested in things like labor movements, public demonstrations, and so on. They're very, very reluctant to start shooting. They do it, but they're quite reluctant, communist movements, to start shooting people. But the IOKA, no problem, shoot away. This was the start of the Cypriot War of Independence, or as the British called it, the Cyprus Emergency. On April 1, ironically, British government installations, radio stations, police stations, army barracks, and various supply depots were attacked all at the same time. The attacks continued throughout the year. As Yoka had the support of almost everybody in Cyprus, it was very difficult for the British to mount any sort of defence against the campaign. They were forced to deploy their Turkish Cypriot police force, which did nothing at all to shake off the preconceptions Greek Cypriots had of the British rule. There were also several British counterinsurgency operations which were moderately successful, but again, it didn't really matter because the Yoka had as they say, the support of the people, so it doesn't really matter how successful they were.
Yeah.
I have some. What's the next photo there?
Yep.
I have a photo there. These are Greek Cypriot students being rounded up by forces during this War of Independence, during this emergency. So you can see they're not very happy. Slip back to us again, I guess, because it's just a miserable photo. Thank you. Hello. In 1957, Yoka declared a ceasefire, which the British thought would be the end of it. Ha, fools. In reality, Yoka used this ceasefire to regroup and rethink their strategy. A year later, they were conducting operations again, this time stepping up the urban campaign and even launching attacks against Akel, which the British were happy about. And now we're kind of getting confusing because the Greek Cypriot factions are starting to fight each other. That's all another feature you will get of any independence movement. Like in America is quite rare because the independence movement happened in like say 1790 something, and then it took another 60 years for the Civil War to kick. Usually the Civil War happens in 2 years max when you have an independence thing. So it took a while, but it still happened. But these guys were already fighting pre-independence. In 1958, the Turks created the TMT. Now, the Turk Mukavemet Teşkilatı. Right? TMT.
Okay.
The Turk Mukavemet Teşkilatı in Turkish. The Turkish resistance organization, specifically to defend themselves against the increasing net of violence cast by Yoka. And that is true. Turks were being attacked and so on by Yoka as well as the British forces. As with Yoka, the TMT were, every time I say it, all I can think of is the AC/DC song. But they're a Turkish resistance movement in Cyprus.
There's got to be a parody of that, right?
TMT, we're killing Greeks. Yeah. The TMT was hostile to communist elements in their own ranks, despite being on the same page goal-wise. Everybody hates the communists, right? When they went to the Turkish government, they were advised that their best option in the face of the 80% Cypriot population wanting enosis was to ask the British to keep Cyprus a British colony. But when they asked the British to keep Cyprus a colony, the Foreign Office almost laughed at them. During a time when, this is 1958, right? During a time when everyone was fighting for independence from the British Empire, here was some desperate lunatics begging to remain under their rule. Even the British found it hard to stomach and told them, you should not be asking for colonialism now. You should be asking for Cyprus to be returned to Turkey, the same way as they're asking for Cyprus to be returned to Greece. That was a quote from Selwyn Lloyd. Of course, it suited them perfectly to rile up the Turkish Cypriots as much as possible. In fact, the British government specifically ordered British forces not to act against the TMT in order to protect the relationship Britain had with Turkey. Enosis was to be avoided at all costs. Cyprus was now too important to allow it to come under Greek jurisdiction. British forces were not so hands-off with Yoka members. Many were interned and tortured, and at least 14 were tortured to death. One witness to one of these deaths said, I saw the soldiers pulling Nikos, this guy called Nikos Georgiou, Nikos out of his cell, almost unconscious, with foam coming out of his mouth. He was making an awful sound like a lion growling as he lay dying. They let him die on the cement outside. Classic British operation, right? In 2019, the UK government paid £1 million to... This is 2019, right? This thing still resonates with people. Paid $1 million damages to 33 Cypriots who alleged they were tortured by British forces during that time. Among them was a girl, 16 at the time, who said she was repeatedly raped. Between June and August of that year, 1958, there were 55 assassinations by Turks on Greeks and 59 assassinations by Greeks on Turks. So you can see it's very much right?
Tit for tat at this point.
By 1959, everybody was panicking. Neither Greece nor Turkey wanted to go to war, and it would be total disaster for NATO if two of its members decided to declare war on each other, because what's the number one rule of NATO?
Let's all get along.
No, the number one rule of NATO is if you declare war on one of us, you declare war on all of us. An attack against one of us is an attack against all of us, and we will all defend, which is a great idea if you're in a defense pact. So if Greece attacked Turkey, they would be bound by treaty to defend themselves against their own attack.
Right.
That doesn't make much sense, but Turkey would be in the same position. So it would be a total disaster, a constitutional crisis, NATO level, right? Now, The next bit is called the Republic of Cyprus. I broke this up into bits because when I was editing, I needed to know which madness I had to slot the bit into. In 1960, the British gave in, and the new Cyprus was created under the London-Zurich agreements between representatives from Cyprus, Britain, Greece, and Turkey. 3 treaties were written up to guarantee the integrity and security of the new republic. The Treaty of Establishment, which gave Britain 2 military bases on Cyprus, of course. Same thing happened in Ireland. The Treaty of Guarantee, which said Cyprus would not sign up to political union with any other country meaning who would they sign up with? Cyprus. Which country would they sign up with?
Greece.
There you go. With any other country, meaning Greece, and the Treaty of Alliance. Yeah, there will be questions, Cory. Pay attention. There will be questions. Okay. And the Treaty of Alliance, which allowed for 950.
You can't just hijack me with a question in the middle of my listening.
This is how we roll. And the Treaty of Alliance, which allowed for 950 Greek troops. How many troops, Cory?
No, that's not.
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. Which allowed for 950 Greek troops and 650 Turkish troops to be stationed on the island.
How did he not know that? How did he not have that right? Everybody knows that's the figure.
Right.
The remainder of the security forces comprising a mixed Cypriot National Guard. Cyprus was to be an independent republic, yay, with a Greek Cypriot president and a Turkish Cypriot vice president with full power sharing between Turkish and Greek Cypriots. Okay, it sounds all right. The new constitution, however, was a labyrinthine, Kafkaesque mess designed to give Greek Cypriots their majority influence while also protecting the Turkish Cypriots at every juncture. And it's pretty much impossible to write a constitution with those conditions. We want if the majority votes in favor of a law, it should go through, but also the minority has veto on it. It's impossible. You will not be able to run a country like that. And that's also I think a big problem with the General Security Council and the UN. You know,
this is an argument against a 2-state solution.
Right.
Well, this is pretty much Okay, well, I mean, I have like another 3 pages, but Seamus has pretty much summarized them.
Sorry.
One sentence. So we can stop now. That's pretty much 2-state solutions.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I might as well go through it now, like with all the grim inevitability.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We'll just go through it like a Hindu wedding, I guess. It became fairly clear early on, like everybody knows what's going to happen since she was 5 years old. Anyway, it became clear fairly early on that the government would deadlock at the first sign of trouble, which is exactly what happened. The multiple vetoes in particular made it difficult to pass any legislation. In 1963, Makarios, now the president of the Republic of Cyprus, suggested the famous 13 amendments to the Constitution, which would make it a workable document and therefore empower a functional government, right? It would work with these amendments. These amendments were all in favor of the Greek Cypriots, of course. One amendment eliminated everybody's veto, which means, you know, the Greek veto, who gives a shit, but the Turks, they'd feel that in the morning, right? Another abolished the separate municipalities for Turkish Cypriots. They had separate little places, enclaves. Turkey rejected all the amendments, and soon violence resumed between Turkish and Greek Cypriots throughout the island. By 1964, Turkey was threatening to invade, and the UN had established a dedicated peacekeeping force called the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus, or UNFCCP, which, at the risk of a spoiler alert, is still there today. Turkey did not invade because Lyndon Johnson made it absolutely clear that things would not go well for Turkey if they did. The violence continued, however, and the soldiers and supplies were smuggled onto Cyprus from Greece and Turkey.
Was that Lyndon Johnson making that speech or Jumbo?
Johnson. Oh, Johnson had some very tasty words for, you're going to find out soon, for everyone.
I don't know if you know that he named his little Johnson Jumbo.
Jumbo?
Yeah.
There's a name you'd give to a dick if you weren't confident at all about the size it was.
Yeah, allegedly he took a piss on a Secret Service agent once because he didn't have any place to go.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've often had no place to go, but I didn't go on a Secret Service agent.
Well, you know, I mean, actually,
given the option,
that's kind of an ACAB thing, right? Because so maybe I don't know, maybe that's actually a positive thing. He did.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know if it's a worker doing it, if it's like a regular person doing it, then it's okay. But if it's the president, then it's like downgrading. Like it's not okay.
Yes, as he was gently whistling "Hail to the Chief." Anyway,
I think that's apocryphal, but I want it to be true.
Anyway, speaking of pissing on Secret Service agents, the violence continued. however, and soldiers and supplies were smuggled in. Several attempts were made by the UN to work on an agreement, but Makarios rejected anything that wasn't Enosis. And remember, nobody wanted to talk about it. And the Turks rejected anything that wasn't Taksim. Taksim being that they want their own chunk of independent Cyprus.
Right.
In 1964, the Greek Prime Minister, Papandreou, had a tense meeting with Lyndon Johnson, where all the US plans by Dean Acheson to fix this problem were rejected. Actually, they were called the Acheson
tense because he kept on pissing on everybody, or was it just...
Close enough. I have a quote here, and you're going to like the quote.
Okay.
We might make it the title of the episode. I don't know. After Papandreou went home, the Greek ambassador Matsas was summoned by an increasingly frustrated President Johnson, who said, "Listen to me, this is a quote. Listen to me, Mr. Ambassador. Fuck your parliament and fuck your constitution. America is an elephant, Cyprus is a flea, and Greece is a flea. And if these two fleas continue itching the elephant, they might just get whacked by the trunk." Now, Matsas said, "I'll pass on your views to the Prime Minister, but I'm certain of what he's going to say. Greece is a democracy and the Prime Minister cannot override the Parliament's wishes." There's another quote. "I'll tell you what response I'll give if I get back such a reply for your Prime Minister. Who does he think he is? I can't have a second de Gaulle on my plate. We pay a lot of good American dollars to the Greeks, Mr. Ambassador, and if your Prime Minister gives me talk about democracy and Parliament and Constitution, his Parliament and his Constitution will not last very long."
Just America, just America, just being America.
Yep.
And when he said Trump, was he whipping Jimbo around? No?
No. You might get whacked by the trunk.
I guess I had a different visual in my head. I'm sorry.
You might get whacked by Jumbo. Yeah. Fuck your Parliament and fuck your Constitution.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. In 1966, a Cypriot newspaper called Patris revealed the Akritas Plan, which was a plan put together by Makarios or his people, who were now calling themselves Yoke, as the Yoka had been disbanded by international treaty. This plan was established before Makarios suggested the 13 Amendments, and it was a path to enosis by legal means and also by violent means. The Turks regarded it as, they called it, a blueprint for genocide, is famously what they called it. And I can understand why they would think that. I can understand why they would think that if they read this in the newspaper, right? Before any of these things kicked off, there was this plan in place. Now, I'm very pro-Cypriot by family, but I can see why they would think that.
Right. Sure.
In 1967, oh, sweet Jesus. Okay. What I really wanted to talk about, you see, I have to ignore huge chunks of stuff here because we want to get home tonight, okay? We have lives to live. In 1967,
context is important.
A fascist military junta led by Dimitrios Ioannidis, and whose basic movement had been funded and resourced by the CIA. They were called the Red Sheep, and also by the British since World War II, took over Greece in a coup. So there was a fascist military coup in Greece in 1967. Now, this is not about the Greek coup, although one day we might get around to it because I really, really want to do an episode about it. That will also be talking about the Decembriana. I told you not to look them up now. As with all fascist governments, they were militaristic, violently anti-communist, ultra-nationalist, and promoted a return to an earlier, better form of Greece that never existed. They believed that Greece, they'll find this in all the fascists.
Make
Greece great again. Yeah. Yeah, make Greece great again. But the Italians did the same thing, harken back to an earlier, better time that was non-existent.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue like that.
Enjoy losing half your children to tuberculosis. Yeah. The junta believed that Greece invented Western civilization, and they also believed in enosis, but as a nationalist thing, not as a Cypriot independence thing. Ironically, feeling the change in the wind and the constant heat of Turkish warplanes overhead, literally, Makarios was moving away from his dream of enosis and preferred independence for Cyprus. It was clear to most Greek Cypriots even by now that the Turkish Cypriots were headed for some form of self-government, if anything was ever going to ever be peaceful. Nevertheless, some former Ioka personnel led by Digenis reformed themselves as, literally, they called it Ioka B. They were still, they were still classic Greek beta, Ioka beta. They were still committed to a revolutionary enosis and continued to fight with the support of the new Greek government, who, remember now, are fascists. So it's not like, In January, Digenis died, and Ioannidis, the head of the fascist government in Greece, became the de facto leader of Ioka B. Ioannidis hated Makarios. Among other things, he thought he was a communist, and he called him the Red Priest. Instead of pushing for enosis like he was supposed to, Like he was supposed to play your fucking role, bitch. And the fascists are obsessed with people playing their roles in society. Right? Just do what you're supposed to do. Stay home and have the kids, women. I'd
Be
like
normal.
Fuck you. So yeah, do it. Fucking dress the same. Instead of pushing for enosis like he was supposed to, Makarios argued against actively harming Turkish Cypriots. The last straw came when Makarios resolved to remove all Greek soldiers from Cyprus by the 20th of July 1974 after correctly identifying a conspiracy of the Greek government to get rid of him.
No.
Right. Now this is where it gets hot. That was all preamble to the actual script I've written.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Context.
You need to know all that.
Yeah, it's important.
Ioannidis, I started off in the Bronze Age. I know. Ioannidis responded by organizing a coup in Cyprus on the 15th of July, which put Nikos Samson in power. Samson was an Enos's hardliner who worked as a press photographer by day and a Yoka hitman at all other times. He was basically a gunman. He wasn't like a politician or anything, but he found himself in charge of Cyprus. The police arrested him, this is years ago, the police arrested him in the 1950s when they became suspicious that he always seemed to be the first on the scene at lots of murders. And he was a press photographer and also an assassin.
Odd coincidence all the time.
Yeah, it's weird, yeah. But he was one of the many fighters who received an amnesty under the London-Zurich agreements, under which Cyprus independence was achieved from the British. When the officers of the Cypriot National Guard staged the coup at first, Samson was arrested and held in prison. Their first reaction was to arrest him. The Cypriot National Guard went to pretty much everyone they could think of to take over Cyprus, including established and popular politicians such as Glafkos Klerides and Zenon Severis, judges, former leaders of parties, but no one wanted to be the one to actively depose Makarios. Everybody loved Makarios, who was Greek Cypriot. Klerides and Severus said no. Ioannidis and the Yoka B leadership regarded Samson as insane, by the way, quote, but they had no options. Ioannidis said, there are 500,000 Greeks in Cyprus, and you chose this guy to be president. They also believed that they were the Greek fascists also believed they were serving American interests in the region, which they hoped to leverage against any future. Yeah, which they hoped. Yeah,
American interests.
American interests, which they hoped to leverage against any future war against Turkey. Now, none of this was spoken out loud, but it's the only geopolitical thing that makes sense. The idea of picking someone like Nikos Samson was not so much to ensure enosis as to ensure obedience to the fascist government in Athens. Right. And if they wanted partition after all, they'd need somebody in Cyprus who would go along with it regardless, pretty much like Quisling in Norway. They didn't pick him so much because he wanted Nazis in Norway, but because they knew he'd do what he was told. Dean Acheson, the US Secretary of State, had, after all, proposed a number of plans for Cyprus, all of which involved partition of some kind, and all of which were rejected by Makarios. The junta's expectation, a lot of this is speculation because none of it's written down. The junta's expectation may have been that Turkey would understand that getting rid of Makarios was not to enact enosis, but to divide up the Cypriot spoils with Turkey as outlined in the previously rejected Acheson plans. On national Cypriot television, the leaders of the coup declared that Makarios is dead. This came as a surprise to Makarios, who was holed up in a Kikos monastery and made a broadcast of his own on local radio from Paphos. Greek, this is what he said, and this is the address of Makarios. Greek Cypriot people, the voice you hear is familiar. You know who's talking to you. I'm Makarios. I'm the one you have elected to be your leader. I'm not dead. I'm alive. And I'm with you, a fellow fighter and a flag bearer in the struggle. The junta's coup has failed. I was the target, and I, as long as I live, will not allow the junta into Cyprus. The junta decided to destroy Cyprus, to divide it, but it will not succeed. Cyprus has always resisted the junta. Do not be afraid. Join everybody in the legitimate powers of the state. The junta must not pass and will not pass. Now let's all join the fight. That was his address. Fucking Makarios, nice. Right? I'm Makarios. Brilliant. Makarios, keep in mind that he is an archbishop, right? He's not just like some guy. He's in the Greek Orthodox Church. Makarios escaped help to London. The United States called for support for Cypriot independence, while Henry Kissinger rejected a proposal to support the ousted Makarios regime.
There he is. There's Hank.
Here he is. Now we have a photo of the boys, I think, together.
Yep. During happier times. That's Makarios and JFK. And we have another one, I think, of that same lad a little bit later in H-Kiss times. Do we have the H-Kiss one? Yeah, there. That's Makarios and H-Kiss. In happier times, sharing a joke at the expense of the Turks.
Right.
Yeah. You know, like everyone, I always remember Dale Cooper and like the important words that he gave to Harry Truman, at least once a day, give yourself a little gift. And what I try to do when I'm down is just remember that piece of shit, Harry Kissinger, is fucking dead after all.
Finally.
Yeah. Fucking finally, man.
Yeah.
It's about fucking time, as Kurt Russell said in Death Proof. It's about fucking time. Yeah. Anyway, these are the top Macarius quotes for our top 10. You might as well leave them on screen there.
Sure.
These are supposed to be the top 10.
Top 10.
I never got around to editing it, so we're going to get more. On the agreement from an independent Cyprus, he said, "We have won. Cyprus is free. Celebrate and raise your heads." On his return from exile, "I am not a man, I am a people." And he genuinely believed that, as revolutionary people often do. On signing the Constitution, he said, "I always had strong misgivings about the Constitution. I signed it only to get rid of the British," which is fair enough. On the Republic of Cyprus, he said, "The independence of Cyprus is not the end, it is a beginning," which turned out to be true. From the mid to late 60s, Macarius, when he was moving away from Enosis, he said, "Let us build a Cyprus where all its children, Greek and Turkish, can live in peace." On rejecting all of these things, he said, "Freedom for Cyprus cannot be achieved through enosis or partition, but through independence and cooperation." And that was a kind of a revolution of thought for him, because he was always the one pushing for enosis. One of his most famous quote is, "Violence breeds hatred, dialogue brings understanding," which is fine as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only so far that'll take you, but I like the thought behind it.
Yeah.
Promoting coexistence, he said, "Cyprus belongs to its people, Greek and Turkish alike." He also thought they should stay neutral during the Cold War. He said, "A small state must remain non-aligned to preserve its independence." And during a meeting with Kissinger in 1970, he said, that's probably where that photo was taken. He said, "Because of our geography and our peculiar conditions, we follow a non-aligned policy. But by history and tradition and conviction, we belong to the West. We're not like other non-aligned countries that are really pro-East."
That's kind of gross.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, they're not the only ones like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of neutral countries who are actually... Ireland! Actually pro-US. During the same meeting, he said, "Some people feel we are moving left. Of course, communists exploit every problem, but we will not become like Cuba, partly because Cypriots are a deeply religious people. The tragedy in the world is the flight from religion. You can't fight communism with materialism." Turns out, yeah, you can. It won't work, but you can. And Henry Kissinger asked him why Greek negotiators fluffed it at the Geneva conference after the coup, and he said, "Because I wasn't there, lol." By lol, I mean he laughed out loud after that. He didn't say lol. Yeah.
Now that would be funny.
Yes, if he said lol. It's a famous Greek word. It means fuck you. Right. So, and that is on the possibility of a double enosis. Double enosis means that the bottom half of Cyprus goes to Greece, the top half of Cyprus goes to Turkey. There's no Cyprus anymore. There is only Greece and Turkey. That's double enosis. This is a quote from him about that from 1974. "If they insist on two areas and on the transfer of population, which is most difficult, we won't accept it. Of course, I care about the consequences, but I personally can't accept it. If there are more areas, it reduces the danger of partition and double enosis." Now, as it turns out, he was wrong about that, but whatever. That's my end. On the 19th of July, 1974, there's more.
Oh, there is more.
Yeah. This is like another quote. This isn't the top 10. This is just part of the regular script. Oh, this guy's a gold mine. On the 19th of July, Macarius made a speech to the UN in New York. 19th of July is a few days after the coup, which said this. "What has been happening in..." This is quite a lengthy one, so strap in, bitches. "What has been happening in Cyprus since last Monday..." Oh, it's last Monday. "Is a tragedy. The military regime of Greece has callously violated the independence of Cyprus. Without trace of respect for the democratic rights of the Cypriot people, without trace of respect for the independence and sovereignty of the Republic of Cyprus, the Greek junta has extended its dictatorship to Cyprus." Ellipsis. "I knew all along that the illegal organization had its roots and supply resources in Athens, blank. Funds were being remitted from Athens for the upkeep of this organization, and detailed directives regarding its actions were given to it. I then found it necessary myself to address a letter to the president of the Greek regime, General Gazikis, asked him to give orders for the cessation of violence and bloodshed by Yoka B and for its dissolution. I also requested him to recall Greek officers serving the National Guard, adding that my intention was to reduce the numerical strength of this force and turn it into an organ of the Cyprus state." Gap. I'm cutting bits out, don't worry. "After the coup, the agents of the Greek regime in Cyprus appointed a well-known gunman, Nikos Samsan, as president, who in turn appointed as ministers known elements and supporters of the terrorist organization Yoka B. Gap. Inside the camps of the National Guard, Greek officers continually charged that while enosis was feasible, its realization was undermined by me," meaning Macarius. When reminded that Greece had made its position clear on this and that it supported independence, their reply was that no attention should be given to the words of diplomats. Under such circumstances, how is it possible for the talks to arrive at a positive result? The double-face policy of the Greek regime was one of the main obstacles to the progress of the talks, and he's right about that. Blank. As I have already stated, the events in Cyprus do not constitute an internal matter of the Greeks. The Turks of Cyprus are also affected. The coup of the Greek junta is an invasion, and from its consequences, the whole people of Cyprus suffers, Greeks and Turks. The United Nations has a peacekeeping force stationed in Cyprus. It is not possible for the role of that peacekeeping force to be effective under conditions of a military coup, which again is kind of obvious. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can blast us out again. That's the speech he made to the UN, and all of that is pretty much on the button. You can get rid of that photo and show it. We need to see Cory's delightful face. 1974. Here we go. We're still in 1974, folks. The year of danger.
Not quite born yet.
No, me. How old are you, Cory?
77 was when I was born.
I'm 75. I'm 75. I'm 50 years old this year. Yay.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much. 5 days after the Greek coup, the day after Makarios made his speech to the UN, on the 20th of July, Turkey mounted an invasion of Cyprus. Full invasion. They managed to capture 3% of the country before a ceasefire was declared, but nearly all of the Turkish enclaves fell to Greek forces. 4 days later, the Greek junta collapsed and was replaced with a civilian democratic government. The junta collapsed because of this ridiculous Turkish invasion. They were unable to support it. The domestic population just found it unacceptable. Peace talks in Geneva began with, as I spoke about them earlier, peace talks in Geneva began with Turkey participating on the condition that they maintain a military presence in Cyprus until an agreement could be reached. The talks fell apart in August, and Turkey mounted another full-scale invasion, this time capturing 36% of the country. In protest, many Greeks rioted outside the US embassy in Nicosia. The American ambassador was shot dead, presumably by a Yokabi sniper. The Americans didn't hold it against them, I guess, because nothing happened as a result.
Yeah, really. Surprised.
The invasion resulted in thousands of Greek Cypriot casualties. Around 150,000 Greek Cypriots, who made up 80% of the population, were driven out of northern Cyprus by Turkish forces. Around 50,000 Turkish Cypriots applied for voluntary resettlement in northern Cyprus, or they left, because they could smell it on the wind, I guess. The Turks set about eradicating all traces of Greek culture in northern Cyprus. Public sites were given Turkish names and had their Greek names deleted. Archaeological sites, Greek Orthodox churches, and cemeteries were desecrated, destroyed, or repurposed for Turkish use. Almost immediately, Michael Kakoyannis, one of the foremost movie directors in Europe, whose movies include Zorba the Greek and The Trojan Women, took to the camera. Michael Kakoyannis, Greek hero, Cypriot hero, absolute genius. Have you seen any of his movies? They're brilliant.
He doesn't ring a bell, no, but
he made this movie called The Trojan Women, right, which was a play written by Euripides in like 500 BC, and it's remarkable. This play called The Trojan Women, it's a dramatic reimagining. Like when you're writing a play about the Trojan War and it's all fighting and men talking about fucking war and action and death and blood. This motherfucker Euripides, wrote a play about what it must have been like for the women as soon as the war was over. Because these women are now concubines and slaves, and that's it. They're fucking nobody. And there's like a line at the very start of it, something like, last Tuesday I was a queen, and now I'm going to be this guy's sex bot, basically. And I don't even know which king of Greece I'm going to be a sex bot for. And the whole thing is just lamentations, and it's just women talking, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
It's a beautiful thing. So this guy, after the junta took over, he ramped up his production schedule and started making the Trojan Women. He had to do it all in exile. He left the country. He couldn't handle being in a fascist country. And he made these... And Irina Papas is this absolutely fantastic Greek actor. She's wonderful. And she's in this thing called The Trojan Women, and it's just this beautiful movie. It's beautiful the way Euripides made it. He made it about it was really about Athens and Sparta, right? But it's saying it's about the Trojan War. And Michael Kakoyannis made it about the junta, even though it's saying it's about the Trojan War, right? It's just beautiful. Anyway, this guy took to the camera. The quote is, "If I could handle arms or a gun, I would have, but I'm not capable. The only weapon I could use is the camera. So I had to go and record the horrors and tragedy that Cyprus was going through." Kakoyannis interviewed many of those involved, including Makarios and also Nikos Samson, so I guess he was fair. And the result was a documentary called Attila 74, The Rape of Cyprus. Attila is what the Turks called the invasion of Cyprus. They called it Operation Attila, which is why this episode is called Operation Attila, or will be. Operation Attila Subtitle, fuck your government and fuck your constitution. Anyway,
Yeah.
interviews with lots of regular people on the ground made it clear that there was a lot of anger at the UN for doing nothing despite being asked several times, and the US for effectively giving Turkey permission to invade. Now, this is something I will also be discussing if we ever do an Iraq episode, because the Americans did not
have to.
Saddam Hussein to invade Kuwait, but they certainly more or less kind of did.
Yeah.
Right? They never sort of phoned him up and said, off you go, but they kind of almost did, and that's kind of what happened here as well. On the 9th of August, 1974, Gerald Ford accidentally fell into the US presidency. 3 weeks after the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, Kissinger held a meeting very quickly and advised him, Kissinger, Jesus, the way he talks. There is no American reason why the Turks should not have 1/3 of Cyprus. The Turkish tactics are right. Grab what they want and then negotiate on the basis of possession. However, of the Greeks, Kissinger said to a group of businessmen in Washington, D.C. in 1974, when he didn't realize he was being recorded, quote, "The Greek people are anarchic and difficult to tame." This is true. "For this reason, we must strike deep into their cultural roots. Perhaps then we can force them to conform. I mean, of course, to strike at their language, their religion, their culture and historical reserves, so that we can neutralize their ability to develop, to distinguish themselves or to prevail, thereby removing them as an obstacle to our strategic, vital plans in the Balkans, the Mediterranean and the Middle East."
Yeah, they're too sovereign. They're too independent and for themselves.
Yeah, the Greeks are always the Greeks. Yeah.
America just can't handle that stuff.
Yeah. Like if you read the Iliad, you will learn very quickly that the only thing holding the Greeks together is that they're Greeks. Everything else, they're always fighting about everything. And even in real life, the history of Athens and Sparta. Athens and Sparta were two completely different places who hated each other, but the only thing holding them together is that they're all Greeks, meaning they speak Greek. So no one knows why Kissinger was so ready to throw Cyprus under the bus so quickly. What we do know is that the Turkish Prime Minister, Bülent Ecevit, look at the big fucking Bashar al-Assad head on him, nah?
Kind of looks like Bob Odenkirk.
He does. Or Bashar. I went Bashar al-Assad, and you went Bob Odenkirk. Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, he's got a bigger forehead. He's kind of got the forehead of Assad, but he's got the Odenkirk face. I mean,
well, he's got the personality of Assad as well. Anyway, Bülent Ecevit. What we do know is that the Turkish Prime Minister, Bülent Ecevit, that man there, had attended Kissinger's lectures when he, Ecevit, was studying the history of the Middle East at Harvard University in 1957.
Well, that's who you should learn from.
Yeah. So I guess they were mates. During a press conference in 1986, years afterwards, Kissinger implied that the only thing preventing a more decisive US action during the coup was internal Turkish politics. Ecevit had convinced Kissinger that everybody loved the US and Turkey. The quote is, "There were no slogans and no anti-American demonstrations in Turkey." This is clearly a reference to the riots and demonstrations outside the embassy in Nicosia. Kissinger then replied, "That is why the tragedy is we couldn't move decisively in 1974, soon after the Cyprus crisis." And that press conference ended by Ford saying that any plans made with Turkey would be provisional because "I have reason to believe Carter might be pro-Greece." Ecevit replied, "I know, I have seen his statements. We know who our friends are." These are the kind of things, like, they said this on camera, by the way, like, anyway. It looks very much from the declassified CIA and State Department cables, which are all publicly available online if anyone wants to find them. None of these are secret anymore. They got declassified about 10 years ago. Okay. It looks very much from the declassified CIA and State Department cables as if Kissinger privately greenlit the invasion in personal conversations with Ecevit. It seems clear that after... I know.
Not Henry.
It seems clear that after the first Turkish invasion, right? There was two Turkish invasions, right? The one took 3%, and then they had some negotiations that collapsed, and then they had a full invasion where they took... It seems clear after the first Turkish invasion and the Greek dictatorship fell, there was zero justification for any further action.
Yeah.
US inaction at best empowered Turkey to believe that the US would support its imperial ambitions, or at least do nothing to prevent them. Again, like Saddam Hussein in Iraq had all the reason to believe that the Americans would support his invasion of Kuwait. He had no reason at all to think otherwise. And if you were there at the time, you would also think that, which I will explain months hence. At least do nothing to prevent them. Papandreou, of the tense meeting with Lyndon Johnson above, certainly thought so when he said the coup was blueprinted long ago in the Pentagon and the CIA. In his opinion, Papandreou's opinion, since at least 1967. The echoes of this foreign policy position continue today in Erdogan's saber-rattling over the Aegean Islands, and even recently going as far to implicitly impugn the rights of Crete, to avail of Greek maritime law in a 2020 speech where he denied the existence of a continental shelf under the Greek island. He's basically, this American support for Turkish stuff is carrying on, in other words. In December 1974, Makarios came back from the dead to Cyprus, where he would serve as president until his death in 1977. However, Cyprus has remained since 1974 in more or less the same holding pattern. And now I have I have a diagram of the current position of Cyprus. That's a black and white one, I think.
I don't know if you do. No.
I don't. Well, what it looks like is it's just got the top part of it is pretty much separated. There's like a line that they call the green zone. It's a thing, an empty line in the middle. Cyprus has remained since 1974 in more or less the same holding pattern. The northern part is occupied by Turkish forces, and Turkey has moved in over 120,000 settlers from mainland Turkey. Now that's a war crime. If you move in settlers to an occupied territory, that's a war crime.
Right.
It's called return to passage, right? It's
yeah. In 1976, Nikos Sampson was found guilty of abuse of power and sentenced to 20 years. Fair enough. In 1983, the Turkish government recognized Northern Cyprus as an independent country, which they call the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, but literally nobody else recognizes it. Nobody. Not even the Americans or Israel.
That's surprising.
Yeah. I know, right? UN Security Council Resolution 541 in 1983 says the attempt to create the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is invalid and will contribute to a worsening of the situation in Cyprus, and that it considers the declaration referred to above as legally invalid and calls for its withdrawal. The situation remains more or less the same now, and every so often there are flare-ups between the two communities. For instance, at the 2006 Turkish Grand Prix, the first prize was presented by Mehmet Ali Talat. Mehmet, classic Turkish name, yeah? Mehmet Ali Talat, who was described as the president of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Cyprus filed an official complaint, and the FIA fined the organizers of the Grand Prix $5 million.
Wow.
Cyprus joined the EU as a full member in 2004. The EU recognizes Cypriot authority over the entire island, even if they don't have any in the north. At the time, Turkish Cypriots demanded of their own leaders that they should also benefit from Cyprus's EU membership. And it was agreed for the first time since 1974 to open the checkpoints and allow goods and people to pass through. It's a good sign. It means that they are willing to put aside ancient enmities for economic progress. Fair enough, right? Every year, the UN passes a general resolution commending the work of UN FICIP in the buffer zone that you can see there in the photo I don't have, what they call the green line, and recommending that Turkey end its occupation. Do you know what I'm going to do real quick is, if I can do, I might be able to jerry-rig something here. Jury-rig it, isn't it? What's the phrase? A jerry-rig or jury-rig? What do you say?
I say farmer rig.
There you go.
That's probably the better one. Yeah.
Okay. Won't be long now, lads. Okay, here we go. Now I can't see the thing. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That green line is the green line, okay?
Okay.
Gotcha.
Everything north of that is run by Turkish Cypriots, and every south of that is run by Greek Cypriots. This place here is the place that was invaded. This place here and this place here are the two British bases.
Okay.
Oh, so
They
they're
still
still
own
around?
two British bases, yeah.
Okay.
And one, as you see, is in this place here is just all checkpoints and soldiers and UN peacekeepers, this whole line right across the country. So it's like an open wound. Like you don't need, the metaphors write themselves, don't they? I don't need to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's like an open wound on the country. Every year the UN passes a general resolution commending the work of their peacekeepers and recommending that Turkey end the occupation. The EU regularly condemns any effort by anyone to legitimize the Turkish Cypriot secessionist entity. That's what they call it, the Turkish Cypriot secessionist entity, because that's literally what it is. On the 15th of October 2024, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, how do you pronounce that? Guterres, is it?
Yeah, sure.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sure. No sé cómo se pronounce, right? Antonio Guterres. Anyway, he stated that there is no common ground between Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots in Cyprus for negotiations. And that is where we are right now. There is no common ground, but nobody's being murdered. But there's simmering tensions. It's quite hostile and tense. But that is where we are now. And that is the end of my part of the podcast. Do we have anything we want to say before we move on to the whimsical bit?
So now it's two different regions, sort of.
Yes.
Because Turkey broke the law, essentially.
Turkish committed an international war crime. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
although the Turkish Cypriots, as I said in the piece, were being attacked by Greeks.
Right.
So, but unfortunately for the Turks, we were defending our ethnic peoples is a thing you will have heard before in less enlightened circumstances, and that is not good. So let's just put it that way. Yeah. But right now, this is where they are, and I'm not. I mean, it seems like, as Seamus said, the two-state solution is off the table.
Yeah.
So, but the EU regards it as one chunk of land run by Cyprus, and the rest is just occupied by Turkey, which is, I guess, it is. But they managed to live and work and live their lives in that place. So,
I guess as long as people aren't being murdered.
Well, wouldn't you welcome any development that led to fewer people being murdered, no matter how unpalatable it was? Like, I mean, sometimes we got to take the medicine, you know? Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. As I said, my cousins are Greek Cypriots, so I kind of, and I have a great appreciation for the culture and so on. And I don't know, man, I do not like seeing archaeological sites being desecrated.
No, that's bad too. Yeah, definitely.
They kind of want to start, well, this not only is this Turkish now, but it always was Turkey, you know, the Gaza Protocol. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's it. Will we go for something?
And, yeah.
Say again to Cory?
Myth making.
Making, yes. Like intentionally creating something you know is not true. Yeah. And I think every country, does a bit of that.
Yeah.
And my country did a bit of that. We kind of invented a lot of things of what it means to be Irish in 1921, like in a rush. So
yeah.
It's the same reason that like Canadians believe nobody was here when it started being colonized by Britain and France.
Yeah. So that's the Neil Young song. Did you ever hear Neil Young saying that? He said, "Oh, look at this." He said, "There's an insurance ant where these white people look over the hill at the frontier. They said, 'Look at this, our new home.' And he just goes, 'Of course, there was nobody there. Nobody living there.' And he just breaks into a fucking round of Pocahontas. Anyway, what I want to know is there anything new happening?
Right.
Poor Cory. Sorry, Cory. That was a lead into. I should probably have warned you in advance. That's on me. I'm sorry. What's new? Just before every podcast, I put CIA into Google and hit the news tab, and Seamus puts FBI into Google and hits the news tab.
Oh no!
We then pick 2 or 3 stories we think might be interesting or funny, and we haven't told each other and Cory can confirm this because he was in the green room. We haven't told each other what these stories are, so we're hearing them for the first time, like you. And the idea of this bit, Cory, is to show that although we do talk about the past transgressions of the CIA and the FBI, they're up to the same shit this week. Seamus, do you have 3 links?
I have 4. We'll skim through.
You arrogant prick.
Jesus. Okay.
What world do you think
little hostile.
FBI
you
broke
director,
the rule.
Yeah, FBI director says...
Why do we let fucking Sammy 4 links have the floor here? Go on.
FBI director says a new office in New Zealand will counter China's sway, provoking Beijing's ire. So basically, what's that?
Cash Patel.
Yep, old Cash. Cool. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I can never remember his name.
just remember QAnon. That's all you need. He's just freaking Q. So yeah. So they're putting that in. Like we really need an FBI office in a foreign country, especially. Fucking New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
So then the other thing, speaking of Cash, Patel fires back at media critiques after uncovering secret FBI burn bags with classified documents.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is from Fox News. So, I feel like whenever I say it's Fox News, it's like the World Daily or Inquirer or all those rags back in the day.
No, the news branch isn't so bad. It's the fucking... They're all right. The American media thing, they're not that far to the right of. Their commentary section is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, but even their news is getting.
The news guys
beyond.
Are all right.
No.
They're getting worse because they used to be all right when I was over there.
Jesus, it's terrible. It's
definitely hit and miss.
They're not great. Yeah. But I'm saying the news. I think the news organization has clearly got somebody else in charge than the commentary.
No.
Not anymore.
No.
Because the commentary guys were
It's not
always
even
off
close.
but the news would always be
It's
the
not
news.
even close. No.
Okay, go on. Sorry,
But even saying that, Fox isn't even the worst as far as the right wing. There's ONE or ONR.
OAN.
Yeah, and then
One
there's
America
another
News.
But they're not a news network.
Yeah. They claim to be.
They're
They're
not.
not.
Fox
They're,
can
mainstream.
Fox can, yeah, Fox can claim. Everybody can at this point. So.
I think Fox News. I think they do hire people who are qualified.
Oh, they do hire legitimate.
OAN does not do
legitimate, but yeah. So this is what this is the claim by Cash.
Well,
In 2017-18, I provided the Steele dossier, proved that Steele dossier was fictitious intelligence weaponized by corrupt FBI officials to deceive a federal judge and unlawfully spy on the presidential candidate Trump's campaign, all paid by his opponent. The media called me a liar.
Kash Patel is saying this.
Yes.
Okay, go.
Now I'm the director of the FBI. We just uncovered burn bags / room filled with Russiagate files, including the Durham and Annex, and declassified them. Yes. Once again, I released the prior FBI's own documents and exposed the truth. The same media is calling me a liar again. Maybe this FBI will release more documents directly from FBI HQ so we can see who is lying. Wouldn't want to deprive the fake news of more bogus Pulitzers.
Did he say wouldn't want to deprive the fake news of
Yes.
more fake bogus Pulitzers?
He said that, yes.
That is such not an FBI director thing to say.
He's, yeah.
That's because he's a fucking pundit, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's a pundit, yeah.
He's a podcaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, what's wrong with being a podcaster?
Oh, nothing. No, nothing. But I wouldn't put me in charge of the FBI.
I wouldn't put me in charge of it either, Cory. That's fair, yeah. Jesus Christ. Imagine being in charge of the FBI. Release them all.
That's what would happen if I was there, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Story 3, FBI redacted Trump's name from Epstein files before declassifying, no basis to release them.
Oh,
Yep.
me.
Yeah, this is Bloomberg broke the story, but I mean, the Independent, other people have covered it. So it looks like that they basically redacted his name from files.
Of course.
So, yep.
Did they redact anybody else's name?
Yes, they did, but they didn't say who the other ones were. And
Well, you can. It's redacted. Okay. Wow. They went that far as to actually delete the name.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So there's an interview with a guy in the Atlantic. His name is Michael Feinberg. He's a FBI guy that basically lost his job because he remained friends with former FBI Peter Strauzik. He's the guy that got caught with text messages and all this talking shit on Trump, so they got rid of him.
Oh, I remember.
So because he's still friends with him, they basically forced him out.
That is very Stalin, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm going to skim down here. So, claiming that the FBI is obsessed. This is what he's claiming. Ideological purity and ceaseless politicalization of the workforce, making us all less safe. There's a couple banger quotes here of his. He's just basically saying that they're all just like idiots, not knowing what they're doing. In particular, concerning me as someone who dedicated his professional career to combating the Chinese Communist Party and all of its tentacles, to see resources and efforts diverted away from the hostile Foreign Intelligence Service and other serious threats to homeland to focus on minor immigrant status offenses. Earlier this month, Patel and Bonnijo found themselves tied up in the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Blah, blah, blah. He says they get a kick out of playing dress up and acting tough, but they actually have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Politicizing the FBI, I think, is that's they're pretty much radically politicizing the FBI.
Yeah. I mean, like
these same guys that freaked out when like the green M&M went woke or whatever.
Yeah.
You're politicizing the FBI. These are the people who are in charge of the federal justice.
Which is always, it's always moved in favor of like the status quo and pro-capital.
Absolutely, but you need to pretend that you're not.
Right.
They're not even doing that.
That's right. They're not even doing that anymore.
Like, does he not understand? You need to pretend that you're balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that they were never. Seamus has educated me on a number of cases where it was absolutely clear they're basically an arm of the right-wing establishment.
Yeah. I mean, and all that, and that was prior to Hoover, like one of the episodes with Burns.
Right.
So, which, again, I think Patel is kind of modeled more after a Burns than he is a Hoover, which is scarier in a lot of ways. Because when we did an episode, how much direct action Burns was actually taking as opposed to Hoover. And I am not an apologist of Hoover. See the other 40-some episodes we've done, but you know what I'm saying. It's just...
What organization has given us the most domestic terrorists in U.S. history?
Yeah, probably FBI.
The FBI, yeah. So, yeah.
Next, CIA.
Okay. Speaking of terrorism support, all right, I have 3 links for the CIA because I'm not a fucking camera hog. I don't have no ego about this, so here we go. My first link is inside the CIA-backed venture fund that helped launch Palantir and Google Earth. This is called InQtel. Have you heard about it? You know about this?
Palantir, yeah. But
you heard about InQtel?
No.
InQtel is a venture capital fund which has so far got about $2 billion of projects attached to it. It's run by the CIA.
Of course.
But it's a venture capital fund. And one of their projects ended up being Google Earth. So Google Earth was started off as a CIA-funded venture capital project.
Wow.
And Palantir will be less surprising, but Palantir.
That's a whole episode, man.
Yeah.
Certainly
a whole article.
Yeah.
They have about 100 projects currently in production. You're not allowed to talk about 90% of them.
Of course.
Interesting.
So that's called InQtel, in-Q, the letter Q-tel. If you want to look it up, I imagine it's a hell of a read, whatever you get on it. The next one is IAEA is an eye of Mossad and the CIA, said the Supreme Leader of Iran. The IAEA we discussed during the Mordecai Vanunu episode, if you remember.
Right, yep.
The International Atomic Energy agency, it says here.
Uh-huh.
The Supreme Leader, he has his own media outlet called Kayhan. Kayhan has accused the International Atomic Energy Agency of acting as a tool for Western intelligence following new legislation last month that imposed restrictions on the UN nuclear watchdog's activities in the country. When the IAEA effectively plays the role of America and the Zionist regime's eyes, Iran must firmly resolve to blind the eyes of Mossad and the CIA. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's like a theocratic, whatever you want to call him, but that's fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fuck him. Yeah. If you have an International Atomic Energy Agency that you've done nothing but cooperate with since the first time they came into your country, and now you find out this, fuck them. The third link is from the BBC. CIA analyst who leaked Israel's strike plan sentenced to 3 years. A former CIA analyst who leaked classified documents about Israel's plan to strike Iran has been sentenced to 37 months in prison. Asif William Rahman, hi, Rahman Ar-Rahim, Bismillah. 34 pleaded guilty in January to 2 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information under the Espionage Act. So we know how they deal with those people, don't they? Who leak the truth, tell people the truth. That's another thing we discussed in the Mordecai Vanunu. Do you know Mordecai Vanunu, Cory?
Does not ring a bell, no.
He's just a man, just a guy doing his best. He leaked the details on the Israeli nuclear weapons program, and they fucked him.
Yeah.
They fucked him hard in the ass. A series of broken bottles. Not literally, but they metaphorically did that. Yeah.
And they're still fucking him, quite frankly.
They're still fucking him pretty bad. Yeah. Nobody's heard from him and so on. Yeah. But that's how they did. That's how Empire deals with the people who tell the truth about what they're doing.
Yep. Absolutely.
That is my links. That are my links. Those is my links.
That's not good.
No. Do we have anything we want to say before we say goodbye to our friends in the chat box?
Out of Canada, is there a CIA, FBI?
There is a branch of the RCMP called CSIS, which is they're kind of like our all-encompassing FBI.
Spell that. CSIS. Spell it.
CECUS, I think.
Thank you.
CSIS. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but we used to talk about it even when I was young, and like you didn't want to say the wrong things online or even on your phone because CSIS would track you down.
The Canadian Extra Sassy something agency.
Yeah, they're like so we don't have like different branches of everything. Like the RCMP is kind of like the FBI and regional police everywhere anyway, federal police. And then CSIS is like the, I guess, CIA version of that.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that you could do a podcast like we do about FBI, CIA, about CSIS?
I imagine if one did some digging, you probably could find a few things.
You wouldn't have to dig very far, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, it's
whenever you see these American invasions, they always say like, "Oh, by the way, there was also 12 Canadian soldiers."
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, Canada likes to pretend that we our only international role has ever been peacekeeping, but then we've always supported the United States in everything that it's ever done.
Yes.
I live in Ireland, so we're supposed to be neutral. So we can't talk, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of backwards, I guess.
This country runs on American cash and everybody's terrified to challenge it.
Well, that's why
how we get you.
That's why there's planes landing in Ireland with
why don't you
deported immigrants. Right.
If I want you to talk about the planes, I will ask you. Those planes landing in Shannon full of military hardware are being handed over to Israel. That's what's happening right now. But there are other planes that I assume you're discussing, all sorts of interesting planes.
I thought they shut that down.
They were supposed to, weren't they?
Every so often, our left-wing politicians, the leaders of the parties, go out with literal hammers, break into the airport and smash the airplanes with hammers.
Yeah.
Like literally, or sometimes they'll just go and have demonstrations, but sometimes they will break in and bash
good
them
for
with
them.
hammers. Yeah, just to get arrested. You know, they're trying to get.
You have actual politicians that do direct action.
Yeah, and because we're Irish, they're like, Jesus, they're making trouble. They're just making trouble, you know, troublemakers. So
you're lucky they're not doing more. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, we don't really have an active communist branch. We have a few little communist parties, but we do have, I would say, fairly prominent socialist parties who perform the same function. Like we were lucky enough because we have an organization called Sinn Féin who used to be the IRA, and then they went mainstream, and now they're kind of gently pulling themselves. They were communists, not communists, they were Marxists, and they're gently pulling themselves to the right the closer they get to power, right? Mm-hmm. So they have about 30% of the electorate now, and we're really lucky in a way because across Europe, the kind of people who would normally skew far right, fuckwit, we hate immigrants type thing, the Sinn Féin scoop up those votes.
Oh, okay.
So and now the more Sinn Féin goes right, funnily enough, the less likely they are to scoop up those votes. The reason they're scooping up those votes is because they're so contrarian and communist. And anything the government does, they shit on it. But as they get closer to power, they're kind of getting more pragmatic and realizing, look, if we ever want to run this country, we're going to have to stop talking, saying, take down the picture of Karl Marx in the background, you know?
You got to play the game.
You got to play the game, yeah. And there's a lot of people in Sinn Féin are uncomfortable with that, but also they do want to be in control of the country. I think Sinn Féin, personally, they are the ideal opposition party. If they were in control, they might get lost and they wouldn't know what they were doing.
Right.
But right now, they're great. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we have airplanes full of weapons.
What's an opposition party like?
What's an opposition party like?
Yeah,
it's good. I gotta say, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet. Yeah.
You mean you've got somebody in the government that criticizes what's happening?
Yeah, they get a pretty bad dressing down. But the Irish, as I said, we run on American cash, and we're one of the best countries in the world across metrics, and we don't like saying it, but it's because of the amount of American cash that we have in the system. Right. Because we have the lowest corporate income tax rate in Europe. The EU has sent us a letter every year saying, lads, for fuck's sake, can you do something with the corporate tax rate? You're screwing everybody else. And we're like, yeah, we'll get right on that. Like most recently, the European Court forced us to put $14 billion, $14B from Apple in unpaid taxes. Because the government did not want to take it. Because part of their cachet is that they don't take that kind of tax from companies. Yeah. The Irish government went to the European Court and paid millions to fight the case. please do not give us $14 billion. That's how serious it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that fucked up. So really what's happening is the Irish government is kind of paying American multinationals to give Irish people jobs. And that system unfortunately works. Yeah. And then they use all that money to pay for social programs. So I don't know if that's I'm a diabetic, and I have a thing called a long-term illness card, right, that I get from the government. Now, I am not going to shit on my own country, but I will point out when they're doing something right, and I will point out when they're doing something wrong. Yeah. This is my long-term illness card, right? All my medicine for diabetes for the rest of my life is free.
Oh, wow.
If I was on insulin, I would not pay a goddamn thing. And you want to know more, Cory? This card is not means tested.
Nice.
As soon as you get diabetes, you get this card if you're a billionaire or if you have zero assets like me. And I like that. I am okay with a billionaire getting free healthcare. I'm fine with that. Right?
I want to expropriate his stuff.
No, I want to redistribute the wealth.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
expropriate
but
I
have no problem with him getting free healthcare at all.
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm gonna. So they do use a lot of money for social welfare programs. They give me €220 a week, which is fine for me because I don't pay any rent. I live with my dad and I take care of my dad, and I'm a carer. So I get a carer's allowance, right? So all the social programs in Ireland, they're not like, I'm not going to retire on it, but it's good. It's a good thing to have because there's lots of countries that don't have it. Yeah. And the idea that I don't have to pay for my drugs and there's no means test for it is just wonderful. And I think everybody in every country should have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are running on American cash, but we're not like spunking it all away.
Yeah, it's in Canada. Like we also have a kind of a universal healthcare, and I mean there is lots of support for people with diabetes or chronic illnesses of various kinds. We still take too many pages out of the book of the United States. So there is a lot of means testing going on, and there is a lot of like, if a person who's disabled is on disability support, if they make any money, then it gets clawed back, right? Because that's an American thing that we took in through and applied through austerity measures. But
they're on a step rate then. According to income.
Yeah. So we have a slightly better situation than America, but they're also our major trade partner. Like 75% of our exports go to the United States. So it's I mean, obviously I'm anti-state and I'm anti-capitalist, but I don't want to destroy things in a way that make people hurt. So,
I've never seen so many Canadians angry before when the tariff news came through.
Oh yeah, no, that's
pure
right.
Raw anger. I've never seen Canadians like that before. They're not like that normally.
Canadian nationalism is at an all-time high, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what it takes to join a political movement,
yeah,
sign up to the local socialist or are you attached to a political movement?
I am not attached to any party at the moment. Yeah,
Is there an anarchist, communist / party? If that's a silly question.
There is not that I'm aware of. There are mutual aid groups. There are many mutual aid groups
but nothing that you would vote for in an election. I mean,
no, nothing like that. There is now this most recent election. There was a revolution party that started up, and they got a lot of really good coverage.
Run by the NDN. Is it the First Nations people?
No, well, it's a mix.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Now is our time.
Yeah, for sure. Should be absolutely.
One day, man. Oh.
But yeah.
Well, Cory, let's just say if there's one place we could catch you that you want us to see you, what would you say before we go? Leave us with that news of where we can see more of you. Because you seem to be quite interesting to me, and I'd like to hear more from you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's youtube.com/skepticalleftist.
Skeptical Leftist.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's kind of everywhere. Is the Skeptical Leftist
cool.
You'll find me. So
I will be looking for that in a personal capacity.
Right on. I appreciate that.
All right.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks with
thanks everybody.
Something. I think Barry knows what it's going to be, but we'll talk about it later. See you guys.
Right on. Have a good one.
Bye.